Yes guys, welcome back to another episode of the Premier League Appetiser show. I'm Coach Indy. Also going to be talking about Indy versus the rest of the world, in which there was lots and lots of fixtures, therefore there was lots of points up for stake for myself or the rest of the world. Opponent I've played already before this season, so we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Also going to be talking about some injury news, loads and loads of injuries happening right at the moment, so we'll touch on some of those, and also one or two players returning, and then also we'll be talking about other news, and that's where we're going to be starting. However, before we dive into that, I need you all to hit the subscribe button and leave a like if you do like this type of video, and leave a comment as well if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So in other news then, the first thing I'm going to talk about is Lee Mason, a referee who refereed a game between West Brom and Brighton. The game finished 1-0 to West Brom, but that wasn't really the talking point. It was more so the Lewis Dunk goal that probably should have been given, but it wasn't given. But it was given, but it wasn't given, and it went back and forth many times. And eventually the referee made a wrong decision. Now that could happen, but it was a really obvious decision where he made the wrong decision. However, on the back of that, he was scheduled to be, I think, the fourth official in the Sheffiled Utd Liverpool game, but he was taken off that because he was injured. Now, I'm sure the smart decision was taken away from him. I don't think he was injured at all. I think he was just taken away from the limelight, given the fact that all the games were on the TV, and probably would have got a bit of press, negative press if you like. So I think that was a smart decision. But yeah, if you haven't seen the incident, you need to go onto YouTube, type in Lee Mason controversy, West Brom versus Brighton. You'll see everything on there. Second thing I'm going to talk about is Roy Keane and Jamie Redknapp's argument on Sky Sports the other day when Spurs were playing. Now Roy Keane, the nuts and bolts of it, he was saying that the Spurs squad isn't good enough. Where they are in the league is roughly where they should be. They've only got sort of 2, 3, 4 players that maybe could get into sort of the bigger teams in the division, i.e. Liverpool and Manchester City. The likes of Kane, Son, Reguilon was sort of mooted about as well. Whereas Redknapp's argument was, well, these are all international players and their class. Alderweireld plays for the number 1 nation in the world in Belgium. You've got Sanchez, who's Colombian, all these types of players. They just needed defending. Hugo Lloris, obviously a world champion, France captain, etc. And it was just really entertaining that both of them weren't sort of budging at all. And yeah, just really entertaining. Again, go onto YouTube, go to the Sky Sports YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see that as well. Really entertaining. Some sad news. Former Norwich manager Glenn Roeder has passed away via a brain tumour. He's been fighting that for a little while, and send his condolences to his family. Another interesting bit of news as well. The ex-Norwich City manager and current, he's not current anymore, he's now left, but Paul Lambert, who was the Ipswich manager, has now, the first part of the story is he managed a game, and in his post-match interview he got asked, do you think you're going to be the boss next time round as in the next game, and he said, I don't think so. So this is, just to give you some background on this, there's an American consortium who were on the verge of buying them out at the time of this press conference. And he said, no, I don't think so, because I've seen Paul Cook, who's the ex-Wigan manager, I've seen him in his office earlier on that week talking to the chairman. So straight away he knew his job was on the line, if you like. And then since then, he has been sacked as well. So Ipswich were sort of shooting around the playoffs in League One as well. So it's quite sad news really, because you don't want to hear and see them sort of things. Obviously, in football management that can happen in terms of, it's a very sort of cutthroat industry if you like, so it can happen. 17.5 million was the number that's sort of been bandied about as well in terms of the takeover. Another quick bit of news, apparently the UK and the Republic of Ireland are going to bid for the World Cup in 2030. That's something that the government come out and said they want to sort of bring football back home. It's actually Boris Johnson said that. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, a bit of news for you. He, again, you can read into this how you like, but he did have on his Instagram bio, he had the England flag on there, and recently he's just changed it to the Democratic Republic of Congo flag, and we can represent them as well, given his sort of background and heritage, etc. So people are putting 2 and 2 together, thinking if he doesn't get picked soon, he's probably going to go and represent them. If that does happen, potentially next season, he'll be away for the whole of January, and Manchester United won't have him at their sort of disposal, potentially depending on how far they get in the tournament. So that's just one to sort of watch from a distance, if you like. The last thing is Liverpool, sort of the main club that have come out and sort of said this, certainly through Jurgen Klopp, during the next international break, which is going to happen in this next sort of week to 2 weeks, any countries that need to sort of quarantine, i.e. Brazil are in there, maybe Spain, a couple of these countries, if they've got players that have played in those countries or that nationality, because they're on the red list, in the sort of the UK quarantine list, they'll have to quarantine for 10 days potentially, or minimum 5 days up to 10 days. And if that's the case, and Liverpool's come out as well, Jurgen Klopp's come out and said they won't release them, but given the fact that we pay their wages. And then also Ole Gunnar Solskjaer last night kind of hinted at it as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's just across the board, the whole Premier League would just do the same sort of thing. Moving on to some injury news then for you. Quite a lot to talk about here as well. Harvey Barnes picked up a knee injury in the Leicester defeat against Arsenal the other day. And Rodgers has come out and said that he's going to miss a minimum of 6 weeks and will need knee surgery as well. So for me, that's pretty much the rest of his season over. If it is 6 weeks, obviously, then maybe he's got a chance. He can make the last game or two if there's something riding on it for Leicester. If they're not, there's nothing riding on it, then maybe just give him complete rest and make sure he's available for next season. Johnny Evans also picked up an injury for Leicester, a calf injury. Fabianski missed the game against Manchester City due to having an arm injury. Almiron and Saint-Maximin, Newcastle's sort of two most influential players going forward, you could like, maybe along with Callum Wilson, who incidentally is injured as well. Them two are now injured as well, probably going to miss the whole of April, which is a big chunk of the season. Smith-Rowe also picked up an injury at Arsenal. Romeo at Southampton, he's picked up an injury, he's going to miss the remainder of the season. That's going to need ankle surgery as well. The only positive news in terms of injury news is Diego Jota of Liverpool. He is back along with Fabinho as well. So a couple of bits of good news for Liverpool, if you like. In that sense, however, there's obviously loads of injuries just happening sort of week in, week out, or every day it seems like, because it seems like a game every day really. Going to move on to game week 26 results. I'm just going to whiz through these. So Manchester City beat Wolves 4-1. Jesus scored a couple of goals in that game as well. I'm conscious I'm going to mix up the results this time. I'm not going to go in order this time either, guys. Wolves did actually equalise through Conor Cody, who incidentally was his first shot on target in the Premier League for Wolves. He scored from it. However, the Manchester City relentless mentality and winning formula continues. Everton have beaten Southampton as well on the Monday night. Richarlison scored. He's now scored, I think, 4 and 4 after tonight's game as well, which we'll touch on. We move on to Saturday, so we'll get back to Manchester City. They beat West Ham as well. Manchester City won this game 2-1. Antonio did actually equalise, but they found a way. Manchester City, like they always, certainly in this run, they've always found a way to sort of pick up their W's. West Brom versus Brighton, we touched on it already, finished 1-0 to West Brom. Leeds versus Aston Villa. Now, there was a lot of talk of obviously if Jack Grealish missed this game, which he did, incidentally, Leeds will win this game quite comfortably, and Aston Villa a bit of a one-man team. However, finished 1-0 to Aston Villa, and that just proves all the doubt was wrong, that Villa are more than a team, minus sort of Jack Grealish, if you like. So they picked up a good win there, and sort of a bit dampens Leeds' flow for pushing into sort of the top 10, if you like. Newcastle versus Wolves finished 1-1. Decent point for both, if you like. Probably a better point for Wolves, given they're away from home and on a decent run at the moment as well. Liverpool won their game against Sheffiled Utd. Curtis Jones amongst the goal scorers there. Chelsea versus Manchester United 0-0 in this game. A very, very boring game, some people would say. I mean, there wasn't loads and loads of chances. I think Chelsea had the best chance in Ziyech, but to be fair to him, sort of stood up to the challenge and made a good save and a good block from Harry Maguire on the rebound as well, actually. Spurs beat Burnley 4-0, a bit of a Gareth Bale. Reminded about the clock there a little bit as well. He's got a brace, got an assist, got man of the match, so he played really, really well. So yeah, he sort of maybe found a bit of form and his mojo back on his return back to Spurs, albeit 6 months potentially too late. However, obviously I don't know what his body and how it reacts, etc. Leicester versus Arsenal Finished 3-1 to Arsenal. Good turnaround from Arsenal after Tielemans put Leicester 1-0 up. Pepe amongst the goal scorers for Arsenal, so it's a good win for them, a blow for Leicester City. Palace and Fulham finished 0-0, so we won't talk about that too much. Good point for both if you like. Moving on to small midweek games. Burnley versus Leicester finished 1-1 as well. Leicester equalising through Inacho, a very well sort of taken volley if you like, although I would question Nick Pope. Maybe he could have stayed on his line and sort of made a. I think if he stays in his sort of his start position where he was, I think he makes a save. Obviously, he's made that decision, and Leicester have equalised and it's finished 1-1 after Vidra had put them 1-0 up. Sheffield United picked up a win against Aston Villa 1-0. Now Jack Grealish did miss this game, and now the theories and the question marks will go back to the Jack Grealish sort of theory, if you like, of him not playing and Aston Villa not being as good and not winning as many games and not being as threatening, if you like. Palace versus Manchester United, another 0-0 for Manchester United. That's, I think, three 0-0s in all competitions. So they need to sort of pick their form up a little bit, especially given the fact the game they're playing at the weekend, which we'll touch on a little bit later. Probably say Palace, if any team deserved a win, it was those, or them should I say. Dean Henderson actually played that game because David De Gea had some personal issues, and it made a really, really important save actually towards the end of the game from Van Aanholt. They sort of kept United to keep it a point, if you like, and that clean sheet. Moving on to tonight's game, Spurs have won their game 1-0 away to Fulham. It's actually an own goal. Good move from, as a tale to us really. I think Spurs played really well in the first half. Could have been 2-3-4 up. Fulham had plenty of chances in the second half, and maybe on another day could have certainly got a point, maybe even won the game. West Brom versus Everton. Richarlison scored again. Like I touched on earlier, I think that's 4-4. He's really in good form at the moment. Probably good management from Carlo Ancelotti as well, given the comments he made 3 or 4 weeks ago. I.e., he needed, I don't know if you've heard the comments, but he mentioned that he needs more from Richarlison, and he delivered the last sort of 3-4 games. He scored against Liverpool in this game and previous game as well. So yeah, Everton at that stage were up to 4th in the league. However, last game of game week 26, Liverpool 0, Chelsea 1, and a good win for Chelsea, a deserved win I would say as well. Liverpool didn't really create anything really, nothing meaningful anyway. Chelsea did have a goal disallowed through Timo Werner in the first half, but it wasn't too much later where Mason Mount went on to score a nice sort of shaped finish, whipped into the far corner, finishing 1-0 for Chelsea, and that now has moved them into the top 4 and pushed Everton back to 5th, and then West Ham 6th, and I think Liverpool remain in 7th. Worrying time for Liverpool. I think it's five defeats in a row, possibly at home certainly anyway, and teams below them. So if Spurs win their game in hand, and I think Villa have got 2 games in hand, if they both win their games, then I think Liverpool get down to 9th in the league, which is scary really if you think about where they were last season. Moving on to game week 27 fixtures then. Burnley versus Arsenal. Burnley picked up a decent point against Leicester. Hopefully they can continue that against Arsenal. Arsenal obviously picked up a good win against Leicester last time around, so it'll be interesting to see how this game sort of plans out. We already know how both teams are going to play. I mean, John Dyche's team doesn't really change regardless of who they play. They're going to play that sort of physical channel type, set pieces type game if you like, and rely on that. Moving on to Sheffield United versus Southampton. This is arguably, you could say, Sheffield United are favourites for this game, given the form of Southampton. They are in dire straits at the moment. I think it's 1 point from possible 27. I think that's correct, and they look miles off at the moment. Sheffield United are they're not in much better form. However, they have picked up a few more points in the sort of last 9 games. I think they've won 2 or 3 games. Remember the game they beat Man United actually at Old Trafford as well. Aston Villa versus Wolves. I think this is a Midlands derby as well. I think it has got a specific game actually, guys. So if you can, leave a comment for me below and tell me the specific derby name of Aston Villa versus Wolves. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below, guys. Brighton versus Leicester. Now, ordinarily, also Leicester favourite for this game, even despite them being away from home, but because of their decimation of squad with James Justin out, Harvey Barnes out, Maddison out, Johnny Evans out, all these types of players. Fofana was out, although he came back in the last game, so he might be back available to play 90 in this game. I'll actually got Brighton favourites for this game. They're in reasonable form as well. I know they lost their last game, but prior to that they picked up, I think, maybe 5 games unbeaten run as well, where they won 2-3 games and drawn a couple as well. So if Brighton can pick up a W there, I think that probably only needs them another 3 points to keep them safe, I would say. So I think it's going to be quite a low total this time round. Moving on to the Sunday games, West Brom versus Newcastle. Huge game. I keep saying this every sort of week. If X doesn't win, then they're relegated. If X doesn't win, or Y doesn't win, sorry, then they're going to get relegated, or they're going to get dragged into it. Reality is, I think the bottom three are the bottom 3, although obviously, and that's how it's going to stay in my opinion. Having said that, Fulham are only 3 points behind Newcastle. And obviously that's not much at all, it's only 1 game. And if Fulham had won their game tonight against Spurs, they would have been out of the relegation. So it is quite tight still, but I do just think Newcastle have got enough about them to, as soon as they get their attacking players back now, I know they've got a lot of them injured at the moment, and it could take a little while for them to be back, but I feel like they've got more sources and more avenues of goal scoring and goal threat, if you like. And obviously if West Brom don't win the game, then they're doomed. Well, I think they're doomed anyway, but we'll give them a fighting chance a little bit. Liverpool versus Fulham. Fulham fancy the chances despite being an away team and being in the relegation zone, given the form of Liverpool and tonight's defeat again. And actually Fulham playing really well against Spurs as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if, I still think Liverpool win, but I wouldn't be surprised if Fulham picked up a point here. Then the big game, Manchester derby. Now, we all know it's Man City going to win the league. It's been done for about 2 to 3 weeks now, say since it went 10 plus points, I think it was done. United obviously haven't picked up W's when City picked up W's, and Manchester City have now increased their lead to, I think, something like 14 points. So yeah, this is massive. It's more so bigger for Man United, just to sort of ease the pressure off everyone else below them, but given the fact that everyone seems to be flying at the moment. In terms of Chelsea are flying and Everton are flying, they're the teams sort of putting a lot of pressure on the Leicester and the Manchester United of this world. So yeah, it'll be a big game. I expect Man United to play in the counter-attack, as they kind of do in a lot of big games, especially away from home. I kind of hope Martial plays this game. I know he hasn't been playing particularly well recently, but I think given the game plan, Dan James will play, Rashford, Bruno, and hopefully Martial, just to give us that extra bit of pace on the counter-attack. Moving on to Spurs versus Crystal Palace, another London derby. Palace are in quite good form at the moment, back-to-back clean sheets in the league, and also I think the week before that they played 2 decent results as well, so they're actually in some decent form the last 4 games. Having said that, Spurs picked up back-to-back wins, 2 clean sheets as well, so it can be a difficult game for Palace, but obviously they'll have a little bit more rest time, given the fact that Spurs have played just this evening and Palace played the night before. Chelsea versus Everton now, obviously, just touched on earlier, both these teams did actually jump into the top 4 for a period of time, playing against each other, so someone's going to be dropping points. So it's massively important, depending on how the results go, sort of Saturday and the Sunday, it could be massive. You know, if Leicester go and lose their game and United go and lose their game, it could be huge for one of those 2 teams to really put a lot of pressure on those 2 teams, and only be sort of a point behind them, maybe 2 points behind. And that's not just Chelsea, that's Everton as well. Everton are playing really well at the moment and keeping clean sheets as well. West Ham versus Leeds, I think on paper this is going to be a fantastic game, and hopefully on the pitch it'll be a fantastic game as well. Both teams are scoring goals, playing attacking football, aggressive. I just think maybe the tactical nous, I mean, Bielsa hasn't got a shortage of tactical nous, but maybe the naiveties of the Premier League and the fact that they play just one way and that's the only way, that might be their downfall in this game, whereas I think West Ham and David Moyes will be cautious to that, making sure the game's the game's less of a basketball kind of game, if you like. So yeah, I think that's how the game will plan out. But obviously, if you watch the space for this, we also got two strikers who are doing terrific at the moment as well, in terms of Antonio for West Ham and obviously Bamford for Leeds United. So 2 very informed strikers, teams as well, you could argue. Just moving on to the last game, which is Manchester City versus Hampton. I mean, Southampton, like we touched on dire straits at the moment, losing left, right and centre. Obviously we don't know how they're going to get on the game before, because that game hasn't happened yet, likewise in Manchester City. However, we'll know Man City, if they do end up losing the game, it's only going to be a minor blip, whereas Southampton, it's less likely it's going to be a blip if they do win the game, for example. So We'll leave it at that. Going to move on to Indy versus the rest of the world. So loads to talk about here. This time around I had, again, my brother AJ on, so he stepped up and got involved. Huge game week this as well, guys. So there's 17 fixtures, so there's loads and loads of points up for grabs. So we'll just dive straight into it. So first game, Man City versus West Ham. We both went for 3-1 wins to Manchester City, and it finished 2-1 to Man City, so both picked up 2 points. West Brom versus Brighton. I've gone for 1-1. He's gone for a Brighton win 2-1, and actually finished 1-2 to West Brom, so we don't pick up any points there. Leeds versus Villa. Both went for Leeds win. I went for 3-1. He went for 2-1. It finished obviously 1-2 to Villa. Again, 0 points. Newcastle versus West Brom. We've both gone for Newcastle wins. I've gone for 2-1 win. He's gone for a 1-0 win. And obviously it finished 1-1. So again, 0 points. So after 4 games, we've only picked up 2 points apiece. So not looking great. However, like I touched on, there's lots of games, a chance to gain lots of points either way. Palace versus Fulham. I went for a 1-1. AJ went for a 3-2 win for Crystal Palace. It actually finished 0-0. So I picked up 2, he's picked up 0. Leicester versus Arsenal. Both gone for Leicester wins. I've gone for a 2-1 win. He's gone for a 3-1 win, and it's actually finished 3-1 to Arsenal. So again, 0 points apiece. Not looking great in that prediction. Spurs versus Burnley. Both gone for Spurs win. I've gone for 2-1. He's gone for 3-2, and obviously it finished 4-0. So again, another 2 points, which is we keep moving, as they say. Chelsea versus Man United. We both actually went for Chelsea wins, despite both being Man United fans and despite Man United being an unbelievable run away from home. But I think that's just credit to how well Tuchel sort of come in and sort of elevated Chelsea's game and the results, and also the blip in Man United's form as well. So I went for a Chelsea 2-1 win, and he went for a Chelsea 1-0 win, and in fact it finished 0-0. So we don't pick up any points there, and I'm kind of glad we both didn't pick up any points there, if I'm totally honest. Sheffiled Utd versus Liverpool. Now I've gone for a 3-1 Liverpool win. He's gone for a 2-0 win to Liverpool. He obviously finished 2-0 to Liverpool, so he picks up 5 and I picked up 2. So it's a good 5 points there for AJ. Everton versus Southampton. This game finished 1-0 to Everton. Again, we touched on Richarlison scored 1-0. I went for a 2-1 win to Everton. He went 3-2 to Everton, so we both picked up 2 points. We keep moving. Southampton versus Wolves. Now I was actually buzzing when Man City scored relatively late on to make it 2-1, because I predicted 2-1, and I'm thinking I'm going to get 5 points here. However, Man City decided to score 2 goals in the 90th minute and make it 4-1. And in actual fact, that's what AJ predicted. So I went from 5 down to 2, and he went from 2 to 5 in a quick moment. He could have just stopped at 3-1. That would have been ideal. So yeah, 2 points for me, 5 for AJ. Moving on to Burnley versus Leicester. We both went for a Leicester 2-1 win. We finished 1-1, so we don't pick up any points there. Sheffield United versus Villa. Both went for Villa wins. I went 2-1 to Villa. He went 2-0 to Villa. And obviously finished 1-0 to Sheffiled Utd. So disappointing result for Villa, and a disappointing prediction on our behalf as well. Palace versus Man United. I went for a Man United 2-1 win. He went for a 2-1 win to Palace. I don't think it's just his pessimism coming into play there. I don't know. In actual fact, it finished 0-0. So again, don't pick up any points. Guys, at the moment, it's not looking good in terms of points accumulated for both sides, Indy or the rest of the world. Last 3 games, and obviously this is the last sort of round, the last day of fixtures, if you like. Spurs versus, or Fulham versus Spurs, should I say. I went for a 2-1 win to Spurs. AJ went for a 1-1 draw, and it finished 1-0 to Spurs. So I picked up 2, he's picked up 0, so I'll take that. Happy days. West Brom versus Everton. I've gone for a 3-1 win to Everton. I thought they would dispatch West Brom, given the fact West Brom have been quite leaky at home, even despite Aladici coming in and looking to assure the defence. It hasn't really worked too much. So yeah, I went for 3-1 to Everton. AJ's gone for a 1-0 win to West Brom, and it finished 1-0 to Everton. So I've picked up 2 points, he's picked up 0. And then the last game, Liverpool versus Chelsea, we both predicted a 2-1 win to Liverpool, and obviously it finished 1-0 to Chelsea. So again, we both picked up 0 points. Now, if some of your mathematicians were keeping tabs on the score, you'll know the score is already. However, the ones that weren't, I will inform you now. So I picked up 16 points, which is actually, in an ordinary sort of average week of 10 or 11 games, would be a very, very decent score. But the fact you have 17 games, it's not very good at all, really. So I picked up 16, and actually AJ's picked up 16 for the rest of the world as well. So that moves the scores on to Indy 208, and AJ has helped the rest of the world move on to 203 points. So it still maintains that, I maintain that 5-point lead, which I'm really, really happy with. And obviously we have a different guest on next week, where hopefully I can sort of increase my lead, and likewise that guest can hopefully decrease my lead. Guys, we're going to leave it there. If you like this type of video, please do subscribe to the channel. It does help the channel grow that a little bit further. We're obviously trying to hit 10k subscribers in our first year. Keep pushing. And obviously if you do click that notification bell as well, you won't ever miss a video when it's been uploaded to our YouTube channel, whether it be the Premier League Appetiser show, or one of our tactics board and analysis, or our predicting player future moves, or some of our coaching content as well. Please do drop it a like, and we'll see everyone on the next episode.